Tamarra Deloache was just a girl from Erie, Pennsylvania. She had been adopted when she was small and raised far away from the woman who gave birth to her. Growing up, she always remembered what it felt like to be taken, how it felt to lose your home, your family, and everything familiar. That pain never left her. It stayed in her chest like a shadow that followed her everywhere. So when Tamarra became a mother herself at just 20 years old, she made a promise. No one would take her child the way she had been taken. Not the state, not the court, not even her ex-boyfriend. She would protect her son no matter what. Her son was her whole world. She built her life around him. He was the one thing that made her feel safe, steady, and strong. But the man who helped create that child didn't see him the same way. His name was Terence Brabham. He didn't want to be a father. He didn't want to love. He wanted control. He used the child as a way to get what he wanted. When he filed for joint custody, it wasn't because he wanted to care for the boy. It was to avoid paying child support. It was to keep Tamarra in reach. And the court gave him what he asked for. He looked clean, spoke well, and wore the right clothes. That was all it took. Tamarra tried to fight. She told the truth. She warned the court, but no one listened. They didn't see a mother trying to protect her child. They saw a young woman who had made mistakes. They saw a mugshot. They saw anger. They saw the surface and ignored the pain underneath. What happens when a mother fights for her child and loses everything? What happens when the very system meant to protect her becomes the thing that destroys her? That's how Tamarra's story began. Not with blood, not with crime, but with love. A love so strong she was willing to fight anyone to keep her son close. And that fight would cost her everything. If a woman tells you, "If I end up dead, he did it," would you believe her? What if she said it more than once? What if her family knew? What if the system knew and still did nothing? Tamarra Deloache wasn't a headline at first. She was a mother, a fighter, a woman trying to be heard in a courtroom that only saw her record, not her pain. So before we take you through the story of what really happened, ask yourself this: how many warnings does a woman have to give before someone listens? How broken does a mother have to look before a judge sees the abuse instead of the attitude? Let us know your thoughts and make sure you subscribe before we go any further, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a warning. One that came too late. Tamarra was taken from her birth family as a child. She was adopted and raised in a different city by strangers who became her new family. But no matter how kind they were, the pain of being separated from her mother never truly healed. It stayed inside her, deep and quiet. She often thought about the woman who had given her life. She wondered where she was, why they were pulled apart, and if she ever thought about her too. That early loss shaped the way Tamarra saw the world. She knew how it felt to be powerless. She knew how it felt to be unwanted, to be told that the life you knew was over and a new one had already been chosen for you. She didn't want that kind of hurt for anyone else, especially not for her own child. At 20, Tamarra gave birth to a baby boy, and from the very beginning, she promised he would never feel the kind of emptiness she had felt. She would be there for every step, every birthday, every bedtime, every scraped knee. He would never have to wonder if she loved him. He would never feel like he didn't belong. Tamarra made her son the center of her life. Every decision, every plan, every dream started and ended with him. Even when things got hard, and they often did, she held on to that one truth. She was a mother now. And being a mother meant protecting, loving, and never giving up. But not everyone around her shared that promise. Terence Brabham was the father of her child. At first, there was hope. Maybe they could raise the boy together. Maybe the pain Tamarra had known as a child didn't have to pass down another generation, but Terence had his own reasons for staying close. He wasn't looking to build a family. He was looking for control. He saw Tamarra's love for her child not as something beautiful, but as something he could use. And he did. That was the beginning of a relationship filled with confusion, fear, and imbalance. One where Tamarra wanted to build a future and Terence only wanted power. A few months after their son was born, Terence filed for joint custody. He didn't do it to be present. He didn't do it to help raise the child. He did it to protect himself from child support, from responsibility, from losing control over Tamarra. He knew the system well enough to play the part. He looked put together. He spoke calmly. He didn't seem like a threat, so when he stood in front of the judge and said he wanted to be involved, the court listened. Tamarra tried to explain. She said this wasn't about co-parenting. She said he was doing it to get back at her. But no one wanted to hear that. The court saw a clean-cut man asking to be a father and a young woman with a tired voice, pain in her eyes, and a story that sounded too complicated. So they gave Terence what he asked for, joint custody. They named Tamarra the primary caretaker, but it didn't feel like a win. It felt like the beginning of something heavier. She still had to share her child with a man who only showed up when it gave him control. For a time, they tried to live together again. For the child, maybe. For the hope that things could be different. But the truth didn't change. Living in the same space didn't make them a family. It made Tamarra smaller. It made her walk on eggshells. And slowly, everything started falling apart again. When it ended, the custody agreement was torn apart with it. Terence returned to court. This time he came with papers, accusations, and plans. He said Tamarra moved too often. He said she had been drinking. He said she wasn't stable. He had words on paper. She had the truth. But the court trusted the paper. Tamarra was now fighting not just to raise her child, but to stay in his life at all. And the walls around her kept closing in. The court gave Terence legal access to his son, and with it he gained power over Tamarra. But what he wanted wasn't time with the child, it was access to her. In private, away from the courtrooms, Terence made her choose. If she wanted to see her son, she had to sleep with him, again and again. Tamarra told her family what was happening. She didn't keep it a secret. But no one in court ever asked. No one looked beyond the surface. They didn't ask what it meant for a mother to trade her body just to hug her child. They didn't wonder why a woman might break under the weight of being forced to choose between dignity and motherhood. In court, Terence looked calm. He came prepared. He smiled at the right moments. That was enough. Tamarra looked tired. She cried, she argued, she spoke out of frustration and pain. That was all they needed to mark her as the problem. The court didn't want to hear about abuse. That wasn't physical. They didn't know how to measure manipulation. They didn't care to learn. To them, it was just two parents who didn't get along. But it wasn't that. Tamarra was surviving one of the hardest kinds of abuse, the kind that hides in plain sight. The kind where the abuser wears a tie, brings the right documents, and talks about what's best for the child, while behind closed doors, he's cutting her to pieces, one small act at a time. Her mental health started to suffer. She was losing sleep, losing hope, losing herself. She drank to quiet the pain. She lashed out in court because no one was listening. And every time she reacted to the pressure, the court saw it as more proof that she was unstable. They punished her for falling apart under the very weight they allowed to be placed on her. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly the way it always had, protecting the man who knew how to look clean and punishing the woman who was drowning. After losing primary custody, Tamarra's visits with her son were reduced. She couldn't call him when she wanted. She couldn't take him to the park, tuck him in at night, or hear about his day. Every moment had to be supervised. Every word watched. She was treated like a danger, not a mother. Still, she kept showing up. She filed papers. She asked for more time. She begged the court to see that she was doing better. But no matter what she did, there was always another hoop to jump through. Parenting classes, evaluations, money she didn't have. And when she did manage to complete a requirement, like a court-ordered assessment, the court dismissed her petition anyway, because she couldn't afford to pay for the results. While she fought, her legal troubles began to grow. She was arrested for driving under the influence twice. She was charged with theft. She was charged with giving false information on a gun application. The headlines called her reckless, irresponsible. But the truth was simpler. Tamarra was tired. She wasn't drinking for fun. She was drinking because everything she had was being pulled from her, piece by piece. Her motherhood, her identity, her hope. She had survived humiliation in court, sexual coercion behind closed doors, and the quiet loss of watching someone else raise her son. It was too much for one person to hold, but still, she didn't give up. Tamarra found a job at Rabbit Transit. She worked customer service. She paid her rent. She moved into her own place. She started making plans. They were small plans, but they mattered. She wanted to wake up with her son in the house again. She wanted to make breakfast, fold laundry, help with homework, the ordinary things that mattered more than anyone realized. Then came the spark of something new. In 2023, Tamarra found out she was pregnant again, this time with a baby girl. Her family said she was glowing, she was hopeful, she wanted to start over, not with fear or pain, but with peace. She had a job, a home, and a future, and she filed again. She asked the court to let her see her son more. She had done what they asked. She had become what they said she had to be. She was ready, but Terence wasn't. Tamarra was rebuilding, slowly, carefully. Her baby girl was due soon. Her home was stable. Her heart, after so many years of breaking, was beginning to heal. And in May 2023, she filed another petition. She wanted more time with her son. She had done everything the court asked. This time, she believed they might finally see her for who she truly was, a mother who never stopped trying. But Terence saw something else. He saw his power slipping. Without custody, he would lose control. Without control, he would be forced to pay support. He would become just another man watching from a distance, while the woman he once dominated moved forward without him. That for Terence was too much to bear. On May 17, 2023, he didn't show up for work. His family thought he was doing overtime, but instead, he was making plans to end everything Tamarra had built. That night, security cameras recorded him walking toward Tamarra's apartment around 10 p.m., calm, steady. He left, then came back an hour later carrying a jug of bleach, not flowers, not baby supplies. Bleach. At 11:40 p.m., a man was seen jumping from a second-story kitchen window. 10 minutes later, police arrived after someone called in a disturbance. There was blood on the steps, on the sidewalk, on the window. They knocked. No. One answered. Inside, they found Tamarra in her bedroom. She had been stabbed again and again. She was 6 months pregnant. Her baby girl was gone too. There was no sign of forced entry. Nothing was stolen. This wasn't random. It was personal. It was brutal. It was the final act of a man who had spent years trying to erase her power, now erasing her completely. A trail of blood led away from the scene. Cameras caught the same man cradling his hand as he disappeared into the dark. Tamarra's family told the police who he was, the man with every motive, Terence Brabham. He ran, he didn't turn himself in. He didn't say a word. He vanished for nearly a month. But truth follows. Blood doesn't lie. When police searched his car, they found blood on the center console. His phone had gone dark the night of the murder. He had switched numbers. But it was too late. On June 14th, Terence walked into the courthouse with a lawyer like it was just another case. His right hand was injured, the same hand that had been seen on camera, the same style of boots, the same time, the same story. He was arrested, charged with criminal homicide. Later they added another charge for killing Tamarra's unborn daughter, and just when the horror felt complete, it deepened. DNA taken from Terence matched a cold case from 2015, a robbery, a mask, a gun, a stolen phone, a dropped bandana. The system didn't catch him then. It took a murder for them to finally connect the pieces. The truth was, Terence had been dangerous for years, but no one listened until it was too late. After Tamarra's death, everyone thought the court would finally see, that they would understand what had been happening all along, that they would protect her son, the one she fought for until her last breath. But they didn't. Instead of placing him with Tamarra's family, the court gave custody to Terence's mother, Marilyn Rhodes, the same woman who had helped raise the boy while Terence used him as a tool, the same household Tamarra's family said had kept her out, cut her off, and allowed the abuse to continue in silence. Tamarra's mother, Marveline, tried to stop it. Even before Terence was arrested, she filed for emergency custody. She wanted to bring her grandson to Erie, far away from the house that had taken so much from her daughter. The court gave her shared custody, every other weekend, Labor Day, and a few days at Christmas. But grief doesn't follow court schedules. In August, Marveline missed a court hearing. She hadn't scheduled a required conference. She was grieving, shattered, trying to hold herself together after losing her only child. And for that, the court took away her rights and handed full custody to Marilyn. Tamarra had spent her life trying not to repeat the pain she once knew, being taken from her mother, being raised apart from love. And yet, that pain repeated itself. Her son was taken from her. Then she was taken from him. And even in death, the people who helped silence her were given control. The system had failed her while she lived, and it continued to fail her after she died. Tamarra's family begged for justice. Her cousin said it clearly. She used to always say, "If they find me dead, TJ did it." And I said, "I know." It wasn't fear, it was truth. A truth no one wanted to believe until it was carved in blood. A parent who truly loves. Their child does not destroy the one person who loves them most. But Terence wasn't a parent. He was a manipulator, hiding behind the title of father. Tamarra was hunted, cornered, silenced, and the system that could have stopped it chose to look away again and again. Now her son lives in the house where her cries were ignored, and the courts call it justice. Tamarra Deloache was not perfect. But she was persistent, she was brave. She stood in courtrooms empty-handed and full of pain and asked the world to see her. Not as a case number, not as a mistake, but as a mother. She tried everything. She filed petitions. She showed up even when the system made her feel invisible. She rebuilt her life piece by piece, just to prove she was worthy of the child she had already loved every day of his life. In the end, she was not killed by one man alone. She was broken down by years of being unheard, unseen, and disbelieved. A system that was meant to protect her became the tool used to silence her. And when she finally found hope again, when she was ready to begin a new chapter, she was taken from it. Tamarra didn't just die, she was erased. Erased by a man who never saw her as human. Erased by a court that never saw her as worthy. Erased by a system that punished her pain instead of treating it. But her story doesn't have to end in silence. Let Tamarra's fight mean something. Let her love, her struggle, and her voice echo louder than the courtroom that ignored her. If you or someone you know is facing abuse, emotional, sexual, legal, or otherwise, there is help. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or visit thehotline.org. You are not alone. You are not invisible. You are not what they say you are. Tamarra Deloache's story is not just a tragedy. It is a warning, it is a mirror, and it is a call to action. Let's change what justice looks like. Let's speak for the mothers still fighting. And let's make sure that no more lives are lost to a system that should have protected them.